I've seen the moments when you were showing the green street side walks where like very green grass.
Yeah.
And I have a question: is it just a project? Because I've seen several photos, or you've already done that in Catalonia?
Those are photos in Barcelona.
Oh, it already exists.
It's called Paseo de San Juan.
Oh.
You can go to Google Maps, enter there, choose the photo, and you will see.
So there is a park, and under this park there is a road. It already exists.
Yeah. We extend the sidewalks. There are some more dry sidewalks, some area that is more green. But this is, remember the strategy. What I explained before, if you work with a mayor and you, during the campaign, you say, we want to work in the urban renaturalization, when you are running the city, you should try to do what you say you will be doing. And that's why here, yeah, so Paseo de San Juan is exactly here, is this one. And then in this place,
Yeah, I was asking about it.
yeah. This is, you see, this is the section I showed before. So 1 second. Yeah, okay, anyhow. Yeah, is this. Yeah, you see there is the traditional sidewalk is here, like 5 meters to walk with the shops here. There are like 15 meters to rest with benches below the trees. And then the paving is small lines of green and then the stone. And then there are benches. Sometimes this is a stop and then you have areas for the kid. So you can go there and have a beer.
Catalonia is a place to live.
Good.
So my question is, how do you involve local other stakeholders into this process of transformation of the city in a way to make it sustainable in terms of financial flows, investment flows, and which part is consisted only of the public budget and which part is financed by other stakeholders like business?
Yeah. You know, Barcelona, the interesting thing is that if you have a city that is compact and dense, in general, you know that every building here in the city, they pay tax, no? They pay taxes just because they own a house, etc. So with all the taxes that the people pay, the city of Barcelona has some money to invest every year. In a city like Venice, as I said before, if your city is huge and you have more roads per people, then it's more difficult because it's less dense. But in a city that is quite dense, then normally with the taxes that everyone pay, you have some extra money that you can invest. So the city of Barcelona invests every year around 300 million euros, so the equivalent of 5 billion ruble. And then, for example, for this urbanization, everything is paid by the government, by the city. But the fundamental thing is that in order to make this, we do by phases. So we do one phase like 6 blocks during 3 years, and then in general, these take time. And we invest, another important thing is that we invest a lot of money. We decide to invest our resources in the public space, because other cities could decide to invest their resources in, I don't know, I mean, it could be a very expensive museum. In general, we try to have a good balance between where we put the money, but for the city of Barcelona and many other cities, the idea of the public space and the public facilities are fundamental. And that's why, I mean, here, what is important, obviously, is that if you invest this, the value of these places is higher, and then the business is going better, then there are more visitors, and the visitors pay taxes, and then there are more money. So when things are better for everyone. And in general, what is fundamental is not to be rational, trying to invest a lot of things on making very expensive things. In general, here we know how much money we have every year. We try also to divide in all the neighborhoods of the city. It's fundamental. Obviously, in a city like this, we are here, and this is the richest area, and this is the poorest area. So in general, we try to put more money in the poorest area in order to balance and in order to give more opportunities and accessibility to places that maybe are not so central places like others.
Вы говорите, город должен быть удобен для горожан. С какого времени у вас началась именно такая политика, чтобы город был удобен для горожан? Это первый вопрос. И второй вопрос, вот меня удивляет. Вот вы вначале построили магистраль, эстакады, потратились, а потом вы это все демонтировали. У меня вопрос, зачем вы строили магистраль, а второй вопрос, зачем вы демонтировали ее и за чей счет эти были расходы?
Well, the first question is, you ask when you had a policy that the city should be good for the citizens. My answer is, your city is not for the citizens? I mean, in general, okay. No, the truth is, there are places, you know, Barcelona has not been the capital of an state in the last 300 years, so it's a little bit like New York. If you see Washington, you see a lot of like the capital of an state, or maybe Moscow sometimes is like this, or Beijing like this. But in cities that are not capital, the citizens and the entrepreneurs and the business are more important. And that's why in New York, the Rockefeller, they make the towers because they wanted to represent the power. And here we hire Gaudí and others in order to use architecture to represent this wealthness. And the people created, for example, I don't have pictures, the music palace, or the opera house. Opera house was paid by the entrepreneurs, not by the government. In Madrid, in the capital, it's paid by the king, but here it's paid by the people. So let's say when the people have a stronger implication, in general, there is a broader and more open interaction. So let's say that we have a very old tradition, at least like since the Industrial Revolution, in order to have a strong implication. And that's why in Barcelona there are a lot of demonstrations against the wars in general, or to promote peace, or to promote the right for the people, etc. So Barcelona, we have a strong tradition about the civic implication. And about the second question, about the highway, who paid to build it and to demolish. Yeah, this is what, when I go to India, I show this and I tell them, you know what? You are going to build highways now. And maybe in 25 years, you demolish them. So maybe you could stop and save that money if you follow my recommendation and go directly to make a park. Because in the future, but the truth is this, the truth is that every society that is trying to progress, in general, they have cars as a way to represent the status. And that's why everyone in China wanted to have a car, and everyone in India want to have a car. And that's why they need to make more highways. And they make more highways, and they sell more cars. And then they make more highways, and at the end, the cities collapse. And one day, some citizens say, please stop. We don't want more cars, we want public transportation, we want to have bikes, we want to have whatever, and let's demolish the highways. And yeah, it was our last big mistake. We pay for the highway and we demolish. But this is, I wanted to show this to explain that if you are planning to make any highway in the center, please don't do it.
Okay. Professor Guaярт, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. It's really impressive to have you over, and I'm very pleased that we could sit through this amazing piece of work. I have 2 questions. I'm trying to promote environmental footprint data mining here in Kyrgyzstan. And it's to do with social and environmental data, of course. So ecological footprint is something that's important. I've come across, with the aid of my colleagues from the World Bank, I've come across this beautiful representation of the Barcelona footprint. And my question is, have you been involved in the production of this particular graphics or the data?
Some of these?
Yes, because it seems like you may have been involved in that.
I did. Well, me and my team and the city, we did almost everything I show here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was my. I suspected that.
No, but so the first graphic about the urban anatomy is something that we were working during long time. Remember, I explained that in the year 2001 we created that institute. That we were kind of young architects that we wanted to. This is the social. This is like you. I mean, we were like you. We decided we should do something.
In 2001.
Because, yeah,
okay.
but now it's 2017, doesn't matter. In 10 years, this will be ready. So we were really preparing ourselves in order to have a good argument, in order to change the city. And in the moment we had a possibility to have some responsibility, we were ready. We had information. When we arrived to the government, we say, you know what? We need to delay the silos. Engineers, biologists, and architects need to sit together to be able to make a street like this. You say, how is possible that you make a street like this? Because we sit together. In general, the guy from the lighting department say, no, this is impossible. The guy from the tree department say, no, this is impossible. The guy from the traffic department that you are deleting space for the car say, impossible. Uh-huh. And then at the end, we are lucky that we have the mayor that say, yes, we need to have an agreement, we need to do a project that will be oriented to the people. It's not about the silos, it's about the citizen and the city. So that's why to be preparing yourself is fundamental to be able to have some influence, to be influent in the city. Yeah.
So you worked a lot with the data and
for
gathering
sure.
data and all that. And my
question
question is actually, what was let's say, the percentage of involvement and then the final, it sounds like it was a political will at the end. So the mayor decided and so we went this way. So we need to have a political figure here who will say, okay, we go green, we gather data, etc. But what is the involvement of the citizens and the involvement of experts, which are also very low on expert potential in this country? Yeah. And the political will. I mean, what kind of, just stylistically, what is the percentage of those three in the final decisions today?
Cities have basically 3 stakeholders: the government, the experts, and the citizen. Normally, the government hire experts in order to take decisions, and the citizens are complaining because they are not part of the equation. And sometimes there are other moments where the citizens hire some experts in order to fight against the government. The best solution is not to fight, is to collaborate and to work together. Mm-hmm. And part of what, when I started to work in the government, it was very hard because every day you had a meeting with citizens at 8 p.m. and then you arrive home at 10 p.m. There were many discussions for everything. But at the end, this is the best solution. If you try to hide something and to pre-cook to the decisions, to try to say to the citizen, this is the best, don't worry, we'll do it, it's a disaster. Mm-hmm. So in the societies that are quite developed and things are transparent and are democratic, obviously, you can discuss and you can take decisions. The other thing that is fundamental is that, I will show you this.
What, once again, where?
This is all the citizens in the city.
Yes.
Okay? And who is this? This is the mayor. Yes. Uh-huh. So the mayor is one of us. The mayor of Bishkek in 15 years maybe is now in this room. You know? That's great. So the question is that you need to have organizations to try to help people, to push organizations to be influential, to be rational, to talk to the media in order to try to introduce your agenda as the core agenda.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, the second question is actually about what you mentioned about the internet, that it has to become a public good,
yes.
public service, let's say.
Yes.
In the city, for instance, or in Kyrgyzstan generally, this is the domain of private sector.
Yes.
So Wi-Fi is provided by private, or internet is provided by private organizations. There is a profit margin. They're there for good. How do you convince the business sector to give it away to the public sector?
Yeah,
because I mean, it's. I think here it's impossible. In Tashkent, for instance, I know it's a country that's our neighbor country. They don't have Wi-Fi and they don't encourage internet at all. And of course, the government there, if they flip over one day and they decide we will have internet, of course they will be monopolizers of the service. Thank you.
Well, in the case of internet in Barcelona is maybe special because we had our Olympic Games in the year 1992. And then, because of the Olympic Games, we developed a first fiber optic basic network in order to connect the different spots. And then we learned, because Olympic Games is a moment to do a lot of urbanization. You make streets and then you put infrastructures. And then we decide that every street that we open or we transform in the city, the city should pay their own fiber network, in parallel to what the private sector will do. So now 50% of the streets of Barcelona have public fiber network. But what is funny is that the power is private. So the problem that you tell me, you say about the information here is the problem that we have about power and electricity in Barcelona. That it was a public company that it was privatized. And now we have many problems about the idea of building, producing energy because the company doesn't want to do. So every city has their own problems or situation. I say as a general concept is that at some point, internet must be a public infrastructure. Imagine that every time that you take a car and you drive in the street, you need to pay. So this is the concept. There are something that we need to have as a public infrastructure, and it should be owned by all of us. But internet and the connectivity arrived in a moment where there was kind of crisis, and then there were the companies and the multinationals were taking over, and well, this is how it is. Question? Okay.
Да? Уважаемый господин Висенте, я ваш коллега, представляю здесь Ассоциацию проекта организации Кыргызстана и свою компанию «Коллеже». Я архитектор сам. Меня зовут Талай. Опыт работы 35 лет в архитектуре. Мне очень приятно сегодня здесь находиться. Значит, этот форум организовывается уже второй раз в Бишкеке. Это давно мы ждали. И мы благодарны, значит, организаторам в лице Раушан, Сайхал и другие. И спасибо за ваш приезд. Мы даже не думали, что вы приедете, потому что главный архитектор города Барселоны — это, значит, такой значимый человек. У меня несколько вопросов, но я хочу объединить как бы в один вопрос, чтобы не делить, да. В первую очередь, значит, как должностное лицо главный архитектор города Барселоны, какое место и значение занимает в иерархии управленческой, значит, мэрии города Бишкек, главный архитектор Барселоны. Во-вторых, какое имеет значение его решение по тем или иным проектам, которые будут реализовываться. Я понимаю, что проводятся какие-то конкурсы, допустим, для каких-то проектов, и проводятся какие-то вот лабораторные обсуждения на площадке. И в конце концов, решение главного архитектора, каково оно имеет значение перед мэрией и общественностью на сегодня? Далее, как я понял... хорошо, хорошо.
I answer? Yes, and then I answer. Okay, so the truth is that especially before the Olympic Games, we had a mayor that was a great mayor called Maragall, and he had an architect called Oriol Boigas, that he was really very influential in the city. And this idea that the progress of the city need to be transferred and materialized in the public space. And that's why architects were so important, because are the ones that are able to design how we materialize this idea of progress, of accessibility to markets, education with the schools and the public space. So it was created the position of chief architect that has been evolving in different moments depending on the mayor. Our mayor he really was very, was an old man, but at the same time was very soft and very good, and he believed that architecture was important, and he gave me a lot of responsibility, not only for buildings, but also to manage and to take over everything like transportation, energy, water, in an overall vision. Today, now we have another mayor that it changed, that decided that architecture was not so important because they have a more political discussion or whatever. So let's say that the truth is that the position of the chief architect changed depending on every mayor. But the truth is that architecture has been and is very important in Barcelona because we have that tradition, and everyone understands that if we really want to bring the quality and the progress to the citizens, we need to transfer and materialize with public infrastructures, public space, and public facilities. So architecture is very important, it's part of the culture.
Еще вопрос, да?
Ну, у нас тоже примерно, как и у нас происходило. И, значит, последний вопрос. Как я понял по вашей лекции, значит, эти лаборатории, где вы обсуждаете, значит, абсолютно все вопросы, начиная экологии, инфраструктуры и архитектуры, да? Кроме этого, есть какая-либо площадка, где объединяют именно архитекторов свободных, как бы, творческих, да, и архитекторов, которые, значит, служат государству, да, мэрии там или другое?
Yeah.
Миша.
Well, in Barcelona we have, I explained you, there are many platforms. Next week, for example, is the week of architecture in the city. We create that institute in Barcelona where are students from 40 countries, very international, very open, very transparent, connected also with digital fabrication. So why you cover this? You don't like it? I can change it. If you don't like some part, tell me, and I will try to adjust. And then here in Moscow, we create this laboratory that again is very open place. So I like very much the idea of education. I like very much beyond to come here to talk with the mayor or to discuss. I like to work with young people because if you work with young people, they will have the power to change the cities and to change the world. So that's why we write many books. We try to share our ideas, but I like very much education for this idea, because the young people will come with new ideas and will make it possible.
Okay, thank you very much. I will have more specific question about Wi-Fi everywhere in Barcelona.
Good.
So as a young person, I really like Wi-Fi, like Facebook and all that stuff.
Good.
But, you know, I have Wi-Fi at home, I have Wi-Fi in public transport. But don't you think that if we will have Wi-Fi everywhere, it will, you know, make our lives more virtual And you know, like public places are designed for public interactions. You know, I'm going with my friend and I need to talk about everything, about life, about work, and etc. And every time I'm there, I'm having my phone, like, you know, pinging and, you know, and stuff. So don't you think it will, you know, kind of don't match this conception of being public?
Well, it's a good argument that you should think about yourself. I mean, because, and I say to my son, and well, in fact, my son told to me, you should not look too much to your telephone, you know, because I am having messages and things like this. Yeah, the truth is that the good about the freedom is that you are free about to do what you want to do and to use the telephone or not. But I prefer to be free, to be connected or not to be connected, but it's me who decide. The truth is that the city, it has already many telecommunication infrastructure. The police has some cameras, the transportation system, there are many information networks, and what we think is that to have the possibility to be connected, to have accessibility, for example, when you are in a city, you are looking where to go. So I like to ask the people, in fact, but also you can have access to this. When you are in a Uber, and then you want to follow how to go, where to go from place to another, to be connected is good. So today is not only to use Facebook and to do tweets, but it's more about to have a tool that lets you to do things. But anyhow, I put this in the level of the rights. I put this in the same way that lighting is normal. I mean, to have a dark street can be dangerous. And then our mayor say, by regulation, every street needs to have lighting. And in general, here you have trees. So to have information, this is this diagram, no? So you say, okay, do we have trees in every street? Yes, okay, you agree to have trees? Yeah, we agree. Because you could say, we have too much shadow. We should, no? Okay, we agree on that, okay. Yeah, streets where we can walk and drive, yeah, it's okay, good. This is logistic, we agree. Power and lighting, we agree on lighting. And water, yeah, water is important for irrigation. So the next level, that today this is not introduced as a normal infrastructure. So all the cities in the world and all the streets in the world in general has these things. Well, slums in India, for example, they don't have lighting. And then we want to put lighting. It's the same for information. We put information, and then after that we'll discuss what we do. So I'm not afraid about the fact, I want to have the freedom to be connected or to disconnect. She said that she liked the answer.
I like his answer, thank you very much.
Good.
No, it was constructive.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question.
Okay.
You know, Maestro, I haven't been to Spain or Barcelona. I've been to many cities, but I should tell you, it's a city that always have been attracting. It has some charm, and mostly maybe by kind of its aesthetic and cultural side. So my question is, how important, let's say, for all stakeholders, Mary and all parts, to take in account this aesthetical, cultural side while transforming the city? Or, for example, you remember probably how it was done with Gaudi quarters, if it was discussion, if it was admitted immediately, etc. Second question, maybe a little bit more around architecture. A lot of cities in the world, for example, in the States, as much as I know, have the kind of defining structure in the urbanistic structure landscape, like, for example, tower or bridge. And what's this sign or structure for Barcelona? Thank you.
Okay, so about architecture, for us it is really very important. I explained before that yeah, we come from a place where we had the Romans in the Mediterranean, the Greeks were moving around. So it was always a place of interchange of culture. We had also the Muslims coming from Africa. So there were many influential. But then architecture was always used to represent, in general, the power of the people and the civic infrastructures. We never had a king like in France. We don't have a palace like Versailles, or we don't have, let's say, the Forbidden City or Kremlin. We have more civic infrastructure. So that's why, and this is important, we don't have super icons. The only kind of super icon that we have is a church that is under construction, La Sagrada Familia. In the last 125 years, we are still building Sagrada Familia. But in general, we don't have the King Palace. In general, architecture is more related with a good average. And this is something important for us, that the good cities are not those that have incredible icons and the rest is a disaster. The good cities are places where you walk and you look around and everything is quite good, you know? And then this culture is something now that the developers, they understand, that the people, they understand. So it's part of a tradition, but we really work hard. For example, I organize more than 200 competitions. And then when there is a competition, you have always the opportunity to hire the best. And then the government need to give good sample to the private people that they are doing the things well done. And that's why to use good architecture and good design is so important as representation, again, of the civic values. What is important, because I have seen some buildings under construction here, is that every building that we do now is, we have the opportunity to do a cultural statement for the future. When we say some cities are beautiful, are good for tourists, what you are building now will decide if this will be a more attractive city in the future or not. Because it's not only about to maintain the heritage. The best way to protect the heritage is to increase it. So the best way to have a good architecture in a city is to make the next building as a beautiful building. So that's why for us it's very important to keep this idea alive. I say next week will be the week of architecture in Barcelona. We try to organize events, exhibition, discussion, etc., and part of it. And you say something about Gaudí. Yeah, well, Gaudí, he had several positions. He had some controversials 100 years ago. And now there are many people, there are some big discussions. There are some people that say we should not finish La Sagrada Familia because Gaudí died many years ago. Other people say we should finish. The truth is that the Sagrada Familia will be finished in 10 years. There are still like 6 or 7 towers to be built, but it will be the 100th anniversary of the death of Gaudí in 1926. And that's why they want to finish in 9 years, and it seems that will happen. You know, architecture, when there are new things, always generate controversial. In Moscow, I repeat, there is Melnikov there, and there are incredible architects and designers. So part of the culture of one place is expressed through art, through design, through architecture, and it's fundamental to keep this alive.
Хорошо. У меня это вот вопрос, вернусь к этим магистралям. Кто был инициатор для того, чтобы эти дороги демонтировали? Главный архитектор, гражданское общество или руководство города?
The citizens. The citizens wanted to demolish. The citizens wanted to demolish. Some people wanted to support this, some not. But then at the end, we need to prove that if we demolish the highway, the city, the traffic will not be collapsed. So I was working very hard in order to do tests, to do simulations. Our mayor was afraid about to demolish but at some point he trusted us. And then when he saw that demolition was so good, he said, don't we have another highway to demolish? Because it really was good. So, yeah. But at the beginning were the citizens.
You mentioned that first priorities were poor neighborhoods
Yeah.
that were transformed. that means the life level increased generally, and business cycle probably, and probably cost of real estate increased. And my question, what's happened with poor people? Are they stayed in this district neighborhoods and become richer, or they move to other neighborhoods?
Well, what is happening in Barcelona is what is happening everywhere in the world, that in general, you need to have a balance between when you make an investment to a new place, you discover a new place, and sometimes the tourists start to go there, the price is going high, and then these create tensions, especially for the people that they have rentals. The owner of the building asks high rental, and then the people must go. And then, then the government need to make social housing everywhere, because this is the way to keep control on the price and to try to have a balance between the super free market and the let's say the management of the city. Now we have a very strange situation, because we had a very big crisis, like in 2008, 2009, and now the crisis has transformed in a strange phenomenon, because now Barcelona is getting investment from Chinese people that they are buying apartments in Barcelona in order to have the residence permit and to do some business or whatever. And then the price of the housing is increasing because there are many tourists coming there. Then the Chinese are buying, or people are investing. They are putting for Airbnb, and this is destroying the structure of the prices in the city. So you need to understand the phenomenon, and at the same time you need to try to develop plans in order to balance, because if not, the city will be a disaster, will be abandoned, will be only oriented to tourists, and you need to have real people living everywhere.
Mr. Guyard, thank you for coming. I would like to tell that I myself lived in Barcelona for 2 years.
Really?
It's been, actually it became the city I would like to live in, apart from Bishkek, of course. And I have the question, in your experience, you've worked in Shukov lab in Moscow.
Yeah.
And you probably have met a lot of people from architecture. I might expect that you have met people that work for the government in the architecture. And what do you think is the difference of decision making in Moscow and in Barcelona? How much easier it would be to perform a task in
That's a difficult
in
question.
Spain?
No, we have a very good interaction with the chief architect of Moscow, Sergei Kuznetsov. In fact, he invited us to go to the last Venice Biennale, and we worked for the project for the VDNH with the city of Moscow that was presented in the Venice Biennale. And I think that he is doing a very good job. In Moscow, they made this competition for the river that was very good. They made the competition for that park that is in front of the Kremlin, and was won by Diler Escofidio from New York. So I think that in one hand, there are some good, let's say, leadership. The mayor, I think, is also doing good work. From my point of view, we are in Moscow. They are in a situation where we were in the 90s in Spain, where the developers has a huge influential. The developers has all the influential, and you don't listen too much the voice of the citizens. So it's in a moment where, because the center of Moscow, in the interior of the third ring, at least around 30% of the surface used to be industrial activities. So now they are removing the industry and they are transforming these industrial areas into urban areas. So that means that they are giving a huge surface, for example, to build 3 million square meters only to one developer. This is crazy. I mean, this is not happening in almost any place in the world. Because in general, a good city is made by many people and is making in a process of consensus, dialogue, etc. The truth is that I have seen some projects that they are doing and they are not bad. There is a vision that they should move forward from this Soviet urbanism to a more European, grid and compact and mixed-use city, what I think is good. But at the same time, I didn't see too much civic intervention and discussion in relation with the urban transformation. No? Maybe Nadia. Okay, Nadia should say something because she is Moscovite and she can tell us something.
I agree with you. The idea is that this project of renovation, which now goes in Moscow very intensively, where the, I don't know, millions of square meters of housing is demolishing, the Khrushchevki, the housing from 60s and 70s actually, 5 floors. And in the coming 5 years, the mayor says that he will move around 2 million people from that housing to new housing, and actually he didn't ask these people if they want to move from there. He considers that this housing is not of good quality and of old one, and that's why now, for example, on this Sunday, there are going to be a huge meeting in Moscow with participation of more than 3,000 citizens against this project. So, yeah.
Well, I will say that this is maybe a tactical mistake. It's a tactical mistake because maybe the idea is good. When you have old buildings, housing buildings, that they are in a bad condition, there are 2 options: or to invest a lot to do the renovation. We did things like this, or to demolish and to build another thing. And we also did. There are these 2 options. What is true is that what we learned from the government is that every time that you want to do something, you need to have a good strategy about the communication, how you talk to the people, to the media, to the investors, to everyone. Because if you go to the press and you say, I am the mayor, I want to do this, in general, it will be like a boomerang, boom, it will hit you back, no? So what you need to do is to have a good, the problems of city in many cases is about the management. You can have a great idea, but if you don't manage in the proper way, it will fail. So part of what you need to do is to have a good strategy about how to make things possible. You know what? I would like to say one thing, last thing. Can I say something? Yes. I would like to say thank you to you because I received many good questions. So I would like to do an evaluation of your questions in general were very good. So it seems that there are many smart people here, and that's why you are here, that's why you invite me. Yes. And so I hope that you can do something great in your city. I like very much horses, so I hope that I will be invited again in the future. Okay, thank you.
От лица организаторов также хочу поблагодарить Висенте Гуаярта, Надежду Хорта и Высшую школу урбанистики и фонд Сорос-Кыргызстан, благодаря которым нам и получилось на самом деле организовать эту замечательную лекцию. И, ну, действительно, и уровень вопросов, и вообще темы, над которыми мы сейчас думаем, ну, как бишкекчанка и как жительница Кыргызстана, я, конечно, надеюсь, что все эти идеи, они, знаете, будут как семена, да, и потом будут прорастать и в наших головах, и в наших действиях. Сейчас я бы хотела сказать вам, что таким образом первый день форума у нас подошел к концу. Вся программа, на которую мы подготовили на сегодняшний день. Завтра в 9 утра здесь состоится разбор полетов, да? Ну, то есть разбор кейсов, которые сегодня порядка 40 человек, по-моему, если не вру, конечно, или 30, играли в зале Б, да, где прям за 5 минут надо было быстро найти практическое решение очень сложных городских проблем. Как раз-таки все эти проблемы были построены таким образом, чтобы вот эти темы, как обеспечить участие горожан, как обеспечить то, чтобы не было конфликта интересов и так далее. Да? То есть вы можете подойти пораньше и за чашкой кофе послушать также, как эксперты, шарманы наши из разных городов, да, из Киева, из Москвы, вместе с участниками игры будут обсуждать эти результаты. Ну и в целом осталось только напомнить, что у нас есть приложение на Play Market, так и называется «Форум городов», там вся программа, в том числе на завтра. Это просто, чтобы вам было удобно, потому что сегодня у нас, конечно, катавасия с бумажками вышла. И завтра также экспертная программа, общественная программа, такие темы, как качество строительства, участие горожан, городское озеленение, городские события как инструмент, самый разный, который может и поднять город, и на самом деле его уничтожить. И так далее. Любые вопросы вы можете нам писать и организационного плана в Facebook. Еще раз напоминаю участникам, шарманам из Кыргызстана, что завтра во время обеда вам могут проставить командировочные печати и возмещение транспортных расходов состоится. И еще одна такая приятная новость, возможно, кто-то еще не слышал. Так как форум городов это на самом деле большое событие, мы обратились к нескольким кафе Бишкека с тем, чтобы такое гостеприимство было на уровне города, да, не только вот в зале библиотеки. И есть список кафе, в которых вам при предъявлении бейджика участника сделают скидку или подарят что-то такое милое, наверное, я не знаю, или вкусное. Это РКС, Бублик, Кью Кофе, Зольден Паб. Так, помогайте, кто помнит? Чикен Стар и, я забыла сама, и Додо Пицца. Сори, мне помогает, потому что уже. У нас есть список, мы его еще опубликовали на Фейсбуке с ссылками на заведение, чтобы вы видели, где находится. Наши дорогие гости столицы, вы можете обращаться к нам, чтобы мы вам подсказали, как и куда идти. Всем спасибо огромное. Вам понравилось сегодня вообще? Как? До завтра здесь.